Welcome to the AI Daily Deep Dive.
Great to be here.
Now, what you're about to hear is, well, a bit different. This entire deep dive, it was researched and generated completely by AI.
That's right. We're looking at today's AI news, Thursday, May 8th, 2025.
And our goal for you today is pretty simple. We've got the top 5 AI stories that are making waves right now.
And we'll walk through them one by one, give you a clear picture of what's happening.
Exactly. A quick but hopefully deep look. So let's get started. What's first?
Okay, first up, we've got Meta. They're pushing forward with AI-powered smart glasses.
Ah, yes, the smart glasses. I hear there are new models.
Yeah, 2 codenamed ones, Aperol and Bellini. They're apparently in development, maybe launching next year.
And what's the big new feature they're talking about?
They're calling it a super sensing mode. The idea is pretty ambitious, actually.
Okay, tell me more.
Well, imagine the glasses using facial recognition, plus an AI assistant you activate by saying, "Hey, Meta, start live AI."
Uh-huh.
So it could, remind you where your keys are, or if you forgot something on your grocery list, all based on cameras and sensors that are always active.
Always active sensors and cameras? That sounds incredibly power hungry. What about the battery?
Ah, yeah, that's the huge catch right now. Internal tests. They show this super sensing mode drains the battery in about 30 minutes.
30 minutes. Wow. That's not very practical.
Not at all. So Meta's putting a lot of effort into extending that.
Yeah.
They want several hours for future versions.
Wow.
Well, one idea is maybe integrating cameras into smart earphones that work with the glasses.
Interesting. And I heard something about them changing internal processes.
Right. They've updated their privacy and safety risk assessments. Seems like they're trying to pave the way for faster releases of this kind of tech.
Okay, but always on cameras, facial recognition. That immediately brings privacy concerns to mind. What are people worried about?
Yeah, definitely. The big worries are, unauthorized data gathering, surveillance potential.
What's Meta's line on this?
They say it only activates with the "Hey Meta, wake" phrase. So user initiation is key, according to them.
But how reliable is that? Hasn't this kind of thing been tested before?
Well, it's interesting you ask. Recently, a couple of Harvard students did a demonstration. They used existing Ray-Ban smart glasses, which have some similar tech, plus some off-the-shelf facial recognition software and public databases.
And what happened?
They could identify people in real time. It really highlighted the potential privacy issues that already exist even before these more advanced always-on systems arrive.
Right. It shows the tech is already out there, and it puts Meta's plans into a much broader context. This whole trend of weaving AI into everyday wearables, it raises big questions.
Huge questions about privacy, data security, ethics, the whole package.
Okay, let's shift gears. Story number 2 sounds completely different. It takes us into a courtroom.
Yes, and this is a truly unprecedented situation in the U.S. legal system. It involves Stacey Wales. Her brother, Christopher Pelkey, was killed back in November 2021 in a road rage incident. And at the sentencing for the man convicted of killing him, Stacey used an AI-generated video of her brother to deliver a victim impact statement.
An AI video in court. Can you just quickly recap the case timeline?
Sure. So Christopher Pelkey was killed in 2021. The person responsible, Gabriel Horcasitas, was convicted of manslaughter in March this year, 2025. Sentencing was just recently on May 1st.
And Stacey Wales' goal.
She said she wanted to bring him to life in the courtroom. A really powerful sentiment. She worked with her husband, Tim Wales. He's involved in tech, specifically generative AI.
So how did they actually do it? Create this AI version of him?
They started with a photo of Christopher, then they used AI to animate it. And for the voice, they used voice cloning tech, trained on old video clips of him speaking.
So essentially an AI avatar.
Exactly. An AI avatar delivering the statement.
What did the AI avatar actually say? Did it sound like him?
Well, reportedly, it started by saying it was an AI recreation. It acknowledged its artificial nature.
Okay, that's interesting.
Then it expressed forgiveness towards Horcasitas. And it ended with a personal message to his family, something about going fishing.
Wow. I can only imagine how that landed in the courtroom. What was the judge's reaction?
Judge Todd Lang apparently reacted very positively. He was quoted saying, "I feel that was genuine."
Genuine, even though it was AI.
That's what he said. And then he sentenced Horcasitas to the maximum penalty. He even asked for a copy of the AI video afterwards.
That's quite an endorsement. What are legal folks saying about this?
Legal experts are definitely taking notice. People like Diana Bowman expressed surprise, calling it unprecedented. It shows how generative AI is really starting to permeate even quite traditional fields like law.
Especially since AI in court hasn't always been welcomed, right?
Exactly. There have been cases, like an employment dispute in New York or a situation in Washington state, where judges were skeptical or outright rejected AI-generated content. So this positive reception really stands out.
It absolutely opens up a whole new conversation about AI's role in the justice system, particularly for something as emotional as victim impact statements. A real balancing act needed there.
For sure. Ethics guidelines.
Yeah.
Lots to figure out.
Okay, moving on to our third story. This one's about AI systems talking to each other.
Yeah, this is about Google's agent-to-agent protocol. You might see it called A2A. And it's quickly becoming a kind of foundational standard
A standard for what exactly?
for how different AI agents, think of them as specialized AI programs, can communicate and work together, even if they're on different platforms or made by different companies.
So like a common language for AI agents.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
It's open source, and it helps structure things like setting goals, reasoning through steps, taking actions, and then sharing the results. It's all about interoperability.
And is this just a Google thing or others getting involved?
No, it's gaining traction. Microsoft, for example, has already adopted A2A in their Copilot Studio and Azure AI Foundry.
Okay, so that's significant.
It is. It lets developers using Microsoft's tools build agents that can, seamlessly interact with other A2A compatible agents. It really shows the industry sees the need for standardization here.
What are the practical upsides? Why do we need AIs talking to each other?
Well, Steve Calvert from Glean put it nicely. He said A2A is laying the groundwork for the next generation of AI collaboration.
Collaboration on what kind of tasks?
Think about things like sales prospecting. You could have different agents gathering different pieces of information and pooling it. Or for engineers doing a post-mortem after an incident, agents could automatically gather logs, analyze data, maybe draft initial reports together.
So complex tasks that benefit from multiple specialized minds, so to speak.
Exactly. And the hope is they'll eventually tackle even more complex, multi-step problems by working together.
Now, I also heard about another protocol, Anthropic's MCP Model Context Protocol. How does that relate?
Good question. They're complementary, not competing. While A2A is about the orchestration, how agents coordinate and talk to each other, MCP is more about giving individual models the context they need. Meaning access to the right tools, the right data, so they can make informed decisions before they act or communicate via A2A. Bob Parker from IDC explained it well. A2A is for the asynchronous communication flow between agents, while MCP helps provide the necessary context and data, especially in large deployments.
Got it. So A2A is the messenger network, and MCP is like the library card for each messenger.
That's a decent analogy, yeah. The bigger picture is this move towards interoperable agentic AI systems that can work together on complex, coordinated jobs.
And protocols like A2A are essential plumbing to make that happen smoothly.
Absolutely vital. It's about unlocking the potential of this kind of AI-driven digital labor.
All right, story number 4 takes us inside the AI models themselves. We're talking about making them think more like us.
In a way, yes. There's been a real paradigm shift. It's not just about making models bigger and bigger anymore, though that's still happening. There's a growing focus on enhancing their cognitive abilities, trying to emulate human-like reasoning.
Why? What's the benefit?
Better performance on complex tasks that require logic, planning, and step-by-step thinking. Scaling alone doesn't seem to be enough to get there.
And one key technique here is chain of thought prompting, COT.
Exactly. Google introduced it back in 2023, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
The basic idea is to prompt the large language model, the LLM, to break down a problem and explain its reasoning step by step, rather than just jumping to the answer.
Like showing your work in math class.
Precisely. And it turns out this significantly boosts performance on things like math problems, logical puzzles, even coding tasks.
And this basic idea has evolved.
Oh, yes. Researchers have built on COT quite a bit. You see variations like tree of thought, where the AI explores multiple reasoning paths, or diagram of thought, logic of thought, even iteration of thought. They're all trying to refine that structured reasoning process.
How do you actually get the AI to learn to do this? Is it just the prompting?
Prompting is part of it, but reinforcement learning is also crucial here. Researchers can train the models by rewarding them when they produce good, logical, chain-of-thought style responses.
So you teach it that step-by-step thinking is the right way.
Right. It helps embed these strategies. It allows the models to learn how to decompose problems, figure out intermediate steps, and even backtrack if they realize they made a mistake in their reasoning.
Are there challenges in implementing this?
Definitely. One big one is evaluation, especially for reinforcement learning. It's easier to reward correctness in domains like math, where there's a clear right answer. It's much harder for tasks where the quality of reasoning is more subjective.
So it's maybe easier to apply to some areas than others right now.
That seems to be the case.
Mm.
You see it more prevalently in tasks with well-defined outcomes for now. But the overall direction is clear. The focus is shifting towards cognitive abilities, trying to build AI that can genuinely reason and solve problems more like humans do.
Fascinating stuff. Okay, our final story today tackles a really thorny issue. Generative AI and copyrighted material.
Yeah, this is a huge one, legally and ethically. There's a new study out from Carnegie Mellon University working together with the U.S. Copyright Office.
What are they looking at specifically?
They're trying to understand the impact of how AI developers use massive data sets that often include copyrighted works to train their models.
Yeah.
How does that square with the goals of copyright law?
Which are?
Well, copyright law basically has two main economic goals. Incentivize people to create new stuff and promote public access to those creations.
And the problem is that training AI often involves using copyrighted books, articles, images, code, whatever, potentially without permission or payment.
Exactly. That's the core tension. Michael D. Smith at Carnegie Mellon pointed out this sort of interesting parallel. He noted that copyright protects creators, but generative AI's process learning from vast amounts of existing work to create something new kind of mirrors human creativity, which copyright also wants to encourage. It's tricky.
So what are the key questions the study is trying to untangle?
They're focusing on two main things. First, what are the actual social benefits we get from letting AI developers use all this material for training? Does it spur innovation?
And the second question?
What does this mean for the humans who create the original works? If AI can easily replicate styles or generate similar content trained on their work, does that reduce their incentive to create in the first place?
Has the study proposed any solutions yet?
One researcher, Rahul Telling, also from Carnegie Mellon, brought up the idea of licensing, requiring AI developers to license the copyrighted material they use for training.
Like paying for access.
Right. But he also acknowledged it's not simple. How do you track what's being used? How do you enforce it? Transparency is a major hurdle.
Do they look at other approaches? How is, say, Europe handling this?
They mentioned the EU's approach, which is more of an opt-out system. Copyright holders there can specifically say, no, you can't use my work for AI training.
So the burden shifts to the creator to say no rather than the developer to ask permission.
Essentially, yes. It's a different way of tackling the same problem.
So what's the big takeaway from this Carnegie Mellon study?
The main message is that we urgently need policies that strike a better balance. We need to support AI innovation, clearly, but we also have to protect creators' rights and make sure they still have incentives. Licensing frameworks, clearer guidelines, these are likely needed to sort of recalibrate things for the age of generative AI.
Finding that balance seems key across so many areas of AI right now.
It really does.
Okay, so that wraps up our AI Daily Deep Dive for today. We covered quite a bit: Meta's AI glasses and the privacy tightrope.
The really striking use of an AI video in court.
Google's A2A protocol, trying to get AIs to collaborate.
Efforts to make AI models reason more like humans.
And finally, that complex tangle of generative AI and copyright.
You know, when you lay them out like that, these 5 stories, they seem pretty different on the surface.
Yeah.
But what's really striking is how connected the AI landscape is becoming. You see tech affecting wearables, then the legal system, then the basic communication infrastructure between AIs, then the core reasoning abilities of AI, and finally the legal frameworks governing it all.
It really paints a picture of just how fast things are moving and how broadly AI is starting to touch everything.
Absolutely. It really makes you think, doesn't it? What are the deeper implications, maybe the ones we aren't even seeing yet, as all these threads continue to develop and intertwine? Something for you, the listener, to mull over.